MMOs, one of my favorite genres of games. From my first ever with Star Wars Galaxies, may it rest in peace forever, to World of Warcraft, and then Elder Scrolls Online. The MMO genre has always interested me ever since I was young. In this video, we're going to talk about a strange MMO I played, and still play. That game is Defiance, the MMO that had a TV show. This isn't going to be a full in-depth guide for the game or review of every episode of the show, it's just a simple video talking about the game and the show in general. For a video game to have a tie-in show was very weird at the time, and still is weird, especially the way they did it here. Well, games like Warcraft, Doom, Tomb Raider, Resident Evil all have movies based on their game universes, and movies like Star Wars, Terminator, and Lord of the Rings all have games based on their movies. Defiance the TV show and Defiance the MMO ran in tandem and influenced each other. I can't think of any other game or show to do that off the top of my head. There probably might be another one. But Defiance is made by Tryon Worlds, better known for the Rift MMO. The setting of Defiance is post-apocalyptic sci-fi techno all over the place. Why is everything post-apocalyptic? Well, it's not nukes like Fallout or asteroids like Rage. The reason is more complex. So the alien star died, so they need a new home. They came to Earth. Tensions built between the humans and aliens, causing war. And then somehow their big ship exploded, launching terraforming technology all over Earth, and basically transforming Earth into an alien world with all types of monsters, mutants, and just crazy stuff all over. So that was the backstory really summarized. It's much more complex than that. Now on to the TV show. So, I don't really remember much about the TV show. I remember it was on like a really weird time on the Syfy network. I think it was on like 11? Like, it was either 10:30 or 11. It was on like real late. So I never really got to watch most of it because, it was always on a school night. Defiance was able to run for 3 seasons, and was supposed to get a 4th, but that was eventually cancelled. However, the game apparently had an update that was called Season 4. I don't know if this was supposed to serve as Season 4 of the show. Now, the show follows the characters of Joshua Nolan, played by Grant Bowler, a former lieutenant in the defunct Earth Military Coalition, and his surrogate daughter Arissa, played by Stephanie Leonidas, an Arathian orphan who has visions of the past, present, and future. So, what I do remember about the show is it felt a lot like if you mixed Mad Max, Star Wars, and Blade Runner. It was a weird show, but overall it was actually pretty good for a tie-in TV show for a game. Now, you can still purchase the show's seasons as DVDs, Blu-rays, or even digital. So the game. Well, there's actually 2 Defiance games. Defiance and Defiance 2050. I'm going to talk about them as sort of a single game, because Defiance 2050 is actually a near similar relaunch of the Xbox 360 PS3 game. Sort of similar to Skyrim Special Edition, where it's the same game, but with enhancements and actually more content. Originally, Defiance was released in 2013 for PS3, PC, and Xbox 360. Yes, an MMO on last-gen consoles. This is where I and many others played it. It was very popular on consoles because it didn't have to compete with the overcrowded PC MMO market. What made it more attractive is that it was a shooter. Shooters were extremely popular on the 7th gen consoles, and with no new Fallout in sight, this filled a lot of people's need for a post-apocalyptic game. I know I bought it because I was like, hey, that's going to be like a Fallout MMO. And many others did that as well. Something funny about mentioning Fallout is that the game actually runs on the Gamebryo engine. Yes, the same engine that Bethesda uses for their games. And guess what? The Gamebryo engine can handle vehicles. As you can see here in the background footage, I'm clearly driving a vehicle around. So everyone can stop saying the Gamebryo/Creation engine can't have vehicles. So the graphics for the original Defiance are okay for a PS3 360 game. However, when the game relaunched on the Xbox One and PS4, the graphics now look dated. I mean, they're cleaner than the 360, but they're definitely dated. The character creation is especially dated. It's extremely simple. You pick one of three races, human, Arathian, or Castian, which don't really have much difference besides their skin tone. You pick either male or female, hair, voices, and skin color of the races. Nothing crazy, it's just really simple compared to some other modern MMOs and games. So, the gameplay of the game and the overall enjoyment, I find it pretty good. The game originally launched as a standard $60 game that went free to play in 2014. So the content is a weird mix of this was clearly made for a $60 game, and other portions of the game you can tell were made for a free-to-play game. In 2014 was about the time I stopped playing the game, only to pick up the 2050 version recently. So in terms of the free-to-play content, there's a lot of microtransactions. In the original game, I don't remember needing to buy anything to enjoy the game, so I don't think you actually have to spend money in the 2050 version, but I could be wrong. I'm only about maybe 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours into the game. One thing to note is that the Xbox 360 and PS3 servers for the original game are still up. Not sure how many people are playing the old version of the game, but the 2050 version, at least on Xbox, seems to have a relatively good amount of people playing it. So the game has a large variety of quests, events, and world events called Arc Falls. There's also several instance dungeons, PvP, and stuff like that. Pretty standard stuff for an MMO. However, the Arc Falls are kind of more interesting. They're more of these giant community events where everybody comes together at once and fights like a whole bunch of monsters, and then there'll be like a boss monster, and it's kind of like an open world raid in a way, how I would compare it to standard MMOs. So the story of the game. Well, you're an Arc Hunter for Karl von Bock, who's also known as Death's Merchant. He has us searching for Arc Tech in the San Francisco Bay. You and him are being escorted by the Earth Republic. However, your strato carrier is shot down by what turns out to be PTSD mutants. Basically, Earth Military Coalition troops are now mutated from all the terraforming, and they still think that the old war is going on. And so they see anybody who enters their area as enemies. So they're PTSD mutants, basically. You have to abandon your ship and search for your missing boss and doing basically quests along the way. One thing to note is that sometimes a character or characters from the TV show will show up and you'll have to aid them on a side quest, which is kind of interesting. But they're not really a key part of the game story. They're kind of just like flavor quests. So you fight through multiple types of enemies, from mutants to simple raiders to cyborg miners and whatever this thing is. So, Defiance is a weird yet enjoyable MMO that happened to have a tie-in TV show that was strangely good. Happy New Year to everyone who sees this on the day I publish it.